Hi everybody, so today we're going to be going over character creation using the Mind's Eye Theatre rules. And so what I've got a character sheet loaded up at the moment, so you can see that on the screen. I'm going to go through it step by step and then talk about all the aspects of it, and by the end of it you should know exactly how to make a character. And yeah, so good stuff. Right, so first things first, character name. So let's just go for something nice and simple. So we're going to call our character Bob. Everybody meet Bob. Then you enter in your player name. This is really handy for when you accidentally drop your character sheet and somebody who hasn't met Bob yet but may know you out of character will be able to return it to you. It's also a really easy way for us as refs as well to track your character sheets online. Right, next up this is where the rules start to kick in. Archetypes. So an archetype is a really quick and easy way to summarize your character. So they're really broad. There's loads of different ones you can choose from, and it's a way to, let's say, for example, the character I'm making here is going to be a warrior who's a bit tetchy and loves a good fight. So the archetype I'm going to be looking for is something that would help me represent that. So I don't think I'm going to be a bully. I'm not a con artist. Going through, I'm definitely not a fanatic. I think looking at these, that fighter would represent me probably the best if I was to summarize myself in one word. Now, looking in the rule book, a fighter is defined as you're used to difficulties, you like to face it head on, combat is always an option. So to me that sounds pretty spot on. So what the game effects of this is that if you are seen to be role-playing your archetype, then you may be awarded a free willpower or refresher for willpower by an ST or ref or something like that at the game. So it definitely has some benefits, and it also gives you a bit of guidance for how you should role play in situations and stuff like that. So archetype's quite cool. Titles, don't worry about titles per se. It's pretty much if you have a title within the game, you can put that there. I don't believe this is status. Status is located at the bottom of the screen, and status is awarded in game, in play, or if you have a certain position in court, you're awarded status for that position. It does have in-game effects, so some of them can give you re-rolls on tests, some of them give you bonuses. Some status is burnable status and other status is permanent. But I'll do a whole other video on status, but for the time being, don't worry about title too much. And then setting and sex. So depending on Southampton Vampire By Night, what you're playing, so in our game you can either be Sabat or Camarilla, so you would just put down the sect that your character's in there. So in this case I'm going to call myself I am in the Sabat. So now we get onto the attributes. So attributes are like the core of your character. So they're not things you know, they are your physical traits, or your how quickly you pick things up, or how resilient you are to hardships and stuff like that. So me personally, out of character, like me as Mark, I think that I have an average in physical, I'm average in social, and I think mentally I can be a little bit on the weaker side of that. So that would be, stat wise, if I was having to stat myself up, I would put myself as primary physical, then secondary social, and tertiary mental. So looking at this, you get to assign 7 points to your primary, 5 points to your secondary, and 3 points to your tertiary. So I'm actually going to make this character after myself. So I will assign these points. And there you go. I've got my mental, social, and physical attributes all put in. Underneath it's bonus attributes. Now bonus attributes are for depending on your generation you select, you could have a physical attribute score, an attribute score higher than 10. If this is the case, these bonus attributes, you just put them in there. So you don't have to worry about it in character creation, but later on as your character's leveling up, I want to say leveling up, gaining experience, there may come a time when you go, well, actually, I could go to physical 12, and that's where you would then start to fill those ones in. Right. Then you have focuses. Each of the attributes has 3 focuses, and those are the things that help to make your character unique and different from other characters. So if you have 2 characters, both of which have a social, let's say both of them have physical 7, and both of them have the brawl skill 3, in combat they would be pretty much the same. But the focuses help kind of differentiate the two, because if one of them has gone for a focus in strength and the other one's gone for a focus in, let's say, stamina, then there could be certain disciplines that gain a focus bonus for having stamina that don't for having physical and dexterity. So they kind of make certain disciplines stronger just for having that focus. So so in this case I'm going to be going for a focus in strength. So the choices are strength, dexterity, stamina, so I'm going to go for a strength character. Looking at my social, you have charisma, manipulation and appearance. Well, I don't particularly think I'm a pretty guy, so I'm not very good at manipulating people, so let's go for charisma on this one. And then finally, mental, you have perception, intelligence and wits. So out of those, I'm going to say that at least I can open my eyes, so that's a start. So we're going to go for a perception. So that finishes off the attribute section. So now you're pretty much like quarter of the way through making your character. Skills are next. So as attributes made up the core of your character, what your character physically was and all that stuff, it's skills are what you've learned, been taught, have picked up over time, experiences and stuff like that. So it's all skills, so things that your character's, as I say, learning. So in skills you have 1 to 5, where you basically got 5 dots. Each dot represents a different level of ability in that skill. So it goes, I'm reading this out of the rule book, novice, practice, competent, expert and master. So that should mean that, let's say in the game, let's say you're driving a car, I would expect a novice to be someone who's just passed their driving test and knows how to drive the vehicle, gets the basics of it and doesn't crash all the time as they're driving. Practiced would be someone who's been driving for a long time, understands how to drive, can drive different vehicles. Competent would be someone that can not only drive but can drive in adverse conditions and adapt to changing environments and stuff like that whilst they're driving. Expert is, people that do it professionally, rally drivers, Formula 1 racers, all kinds of, basically a professional level where only a select few people in the world could do it. And then a master is someone who is just, the pinnacle of that field. So if they're the rally driver, they always come in first. They, they are what everybody else strives to be like. They set the bar. That's a master. So so basically you assign points to skills, and they can then be used in the game to allow you to do bits and bobs. I should have explained that better. But so in skill wise, you get to have 1 skill, and I'm gonna have to look, sorry about this. You get 1 skill with 4 dots, and I'm gonna, because I cannot see it very well, here we go. Choose 1 skill with 4 dots, 2 skills with 3 dots, 3 skills with 2 dots, and then 4 skills with 1 dot. So I'll do that now. So as I say, I want to be a bit of a fighter, so I'm going to be putting 4 dots straight off the bat into brawl. I don't want to get hit a lot, so I'm going to put some points into dodge, and also into let's go intimidation. Let's go for intimidate. I want to be proper intimidating. Right, so that's my 4 points assigned and my 2 3 points. Now I get 3 2 points, so let's go for some athletics. What should we want? I do want to be able to drive a car reasonably well. And what's the last one? What should we go for? It's difficult. I think I'm going to try and be a bit aware of my surroundings. And then finally I get 4 points where I can put 1 point in. And so if you don't have a point in a skill, you haven't really got the skill. You're kind of completely untrained in it, which means, you know, there could be a situation where, let's say you've got to pick a lock. If you don't have security, you won't be able to make that challenge because you've got no idea how to pick a lock. So we're going to put a point in security, just in case I need to pick a lock. Point in streetwise, because I want to, you know, be able to navigate my surroundings and not get lost. Point in survival, just in case feeding starts to get a bit hard. And after I've punched someone, I may need to hide. So I'm going to put a point in stealth. So there's all my skill points assigned. That was nice and easy. So yeah, that makes up now. So if I was doing a test pool at the moment, I've now got my attributes and skills. So all I would need after this is wildcards. So at this point, this character is in theory very playable. But moving on down, we're now going to go to backgrounds. Right, backgrounds. There's a lot to it. Backgrounds are kind of what assists your character in downtime actions or affecting plots that are going on in the game. General interacting with the world kind of comes through backgrounds. So they come in many shapes and sizes. So you've got allies, alternate identity, contacts, fame, generation, haven, herd, influence the elite, influence the underworld, resources and retainers. So I'm going to try and go through these briefly. There are a couple of them that I'm not 100% on. So what I will do is I'll talk about the ones that I know. How's that? And then the others I'll try and add in later with a bit of a description or something. So alternate identity. Alternate identity is you being someone else. So your character is, let's say, I'm Bob the Brouillard, I'm in the Sabbat, but my alternate identity is Sam the Tailor, who's in the Camarilla. Now, Sam the Tailor, he's also a Toreador as well. Now, for me to be able to pull that off under scrutiny would mean that I would, the more you invest into your alternate identity, those points, the more kind of in-depth somebody can look to you and not uncover your secret. So it could be that at the start, you've kind of got some basic information to say that you are who you say you are. But if anybody was to chase up any of those like contact numbers or anything like that, they would very quickly start to unravel your lie. Whilst the top end level of it is you are known within the sect that you're trying to infiltrate, or your character, the alternate identity, is a known person within that field you're trying to sneak into or whatever. That you have multiple contacts people can get in touch with. There's, you've got a whole backstory of stuff for people to dig through and not uncover the fact that you're lying. So alternate identity is big and clever if you're trying to be a spy or anything like that. Then you've got contacts. Now contacts are, let's say, you had a contact in the media called Helen, who was a reporter. So Helen, a reporter in the local media. You've got Dave, the police officer, who's a local, like constable or something. And a plot comes up or something, and let's say there's a load of animals are going missing within the city. Well, there's other contacts people could use, but you could turn around and say, well, I'm going to check my media contact to see if there's any information. And then, you'd put in your downtime, I'm using this contact, I'm investigating this, do I get any information, please, Mr. Ref? And then the ref would, give you information if it was warranted or not. So contacts are there to basically, for you to ask a question and see if you can get an answer in return. Fame is exactly what it is in real life. If you're famous and well known, doors open for you. So Let's say you were going into a nightclub and you wanted to go to a restricted area at the back of the nightclub. If you were famous within the city and known as like a, say a celebrity, they're more likely to allow you into that back little room, or free alcohol in the evening, or left alone or something, because you're a celebrity. So fame is a double-edged sword though, because the more famous you are, don't forget you're a vampire, try and uphold the masquerade. So it is something where fame can definitely open doors and give you bonuses. So for example, you can have up to +5 on you get +5 like social traits when using your fame, but at the same time, if you are famous and you make some masquerade breaches, it could be bad for you. Generation is really important. Generation is, you start off, no, you don't start off, you choose. You can either be a neonate, which is 13th to 11th generation, and this is the first dot in generation. Then you've got ancilla, which is 10th to 9th. Pretend elder, which is 8th generation. Master elder and luminary elder. And by assigning points into generation, you basically unlock different generations to play as. Now at the start of the game, we're putting a retirement XP wall for Master Elder and Luminary Elder within the Southampton Vampire By Night game, but other games may not have those boundaries. So yeah, it's the more points you invest into generation, the higher the generation is you'll start the game. Then you've got Haven. So vampires themselves, if you've seen a lot of the films and the movies and stuff like that, vampires don't normally just fall asleep in the middle of the road or in a bush. What they do is they go back to their lair. So in lair, translate haven. It's a safe area where a vampire will rest during the day, and the more you invest into haven, the more protected or flamboyant or more it can accommodate and stuff like that. So every time you invest a point into haven, you can choose from like a, select customization tree in a way for your haven. So it could be things like library, location, if it's luxury, security, the size of it, staff, occult, guards, all kinds of stuff. So yeah, so haven is big and clever, because if you don't have a haven, your character will be vulnerable during downtime. Then you've got herd. Herd is so when vampires feed, they go out, they hunt, they catch people unaware, and then they feed upon them without breaking the masquerade, and then afterwards they kind of lick the wound closed and you did not see anything, kind of thing. And that's how a vampire would feed. But the issue with that is that if, for example, you've just got out of a big fight and you've lost a load of blood, or there's people out looking for you and you're trying to keep hidden away, or you're just trying to stay in your haven, going out and feeding them, it adds risks. So herd is kind of like your mobile blood bank. It's mortals or your ability to get hold of blood very easily. So the more you invest into that, the more blood you can gain access to, freely without any issues, and that's herd. Influence the elite and influence underworld are just two sides of the same coin, and it's how you can influence the city you're in. So the more points you invest in that, the more you can influence the city. And it's just I'm not going to say the elite is the upper crust, but it's more of the law-abiding services within the city. So police, church. In this case, it's not church, religion. High society, things like that, whilst the underworld would be things more like occult and underworld influence. It is, as I say, it's the more you invest in it, as you get higher or lower, etc., etc. So I didn't explain that too well, but it's pretty much like if you wanted things to happen within the city, influencing, having the ability to influence is important. Then you've got resources and retainers. So Allies, resources, retainers, I'm not 100% sure on, so I'm not going to go into them now. I should have really read the rules a little bit better, but I do apologise. So I'll try to cover them in a later video, or add them onto the end of this when I read the rules. Right. So you get to assign some points. I've been waffling on about them for ages. So you basically get to assign some points to them now. What you get to assign points on, I'm going to skip back because here we go. Assign 3 dots to a single background, 2 dots to a second background, and 1 dot to a third background. So let's have a look. What do I want? My brewer is going to be all about, well, it's generation. I'm going to put 3 points into generation. I want to be an 8th generation brewer. You know, none of this thin blood stuff for me. He's going to have a Haven. I'm going to put 2 points into Haven. Oh, I've just changed the top one. Oh, it's all going wrong. Haven. And that was generation. There we go. And I'll put 2 points into Haven. And I would assign those points to things like security and guards would be my Haven. I'd want to be secure whilst I sleep. Then the last one, I'm going to put a point into Herd. I like the idea of being able to get a hold of some emergency blood after I've just been in a fight or something. I've already pre-generated the next one, which is disciplines. So we finished with backgrounds now. Moving on to disciplines. Disciplines, you get to put 2 points into one of your in-clan disciplines and then 1 point into the other 2. Now, disciplines themselves come in trees. So between, I believe it's 1 to 5 or 1 to 6 depending, you have a series of disciplines. The more points you invest, the more you unlock. So going through it, I'm going to be saying I'm nice and quick, so I'm going to invest 2 points in celerity. I'm going to put a point in potence and a point in presence. That's all that done. And then what I would then be able to do is go into the rule book, look at all of those disciplines, and then make notes of them or write them on a little cheat sheet on the back of my character sheet or something, so I knew the rules for my disciplines before I went into the game. And yeah, so and also don't forget that focus that you chose as well could affect those disciplines for you. So yeah, don't forget to do that. Then you've got merits and flaws. So what I just said about focus is that they kind of changed your character up from other people's characters. Exactly the same with merits and flaws. Merits and flaws are really, there is like, you know, hundreds to choose from, so I can't really go into them, but they you can basically have up to 7 points of merits and then 7 points of flaw, and they can do all kinds of weird and wacky things. So I'll just go briefly over one that I think I know what it is. Where was it? Pretend Masquerade or something like that. Personal Masquerade. Okay, so this is an important one actually for Southampton Vampire By Night as well. Vampires themselves are pale and cold, and they do not look living. They're not zombies, but they definitely don't look healthy. So what vampires have to do is they have to, you know, try to uphold the masquerade on a day-to-day basis when they're out and about. So you know, they like cover their faces a bit, or wear gloves, or spend blood to make themselves blood flush into their face, so that way, you know, they don't look as pale if someone was up close to them and looking at them. But generally they try to stay out of you know, people's scrutiny. They hide in the shadows. So personal masquerade, what this allows you to do, or what it means your character can do, is that you constantly are flushed of health. So you look more human than any other vampire. So you don't appear as pale. You're more like, you know, you've got a bit of flush in your cheeks. So you would be able to pass off as a mortal that maybe hasn't been in the sun for a while. Which makes a huge difference if, for example, you were tailoring that with the Fame background. It means that maybe you could even be, as I say, you could be out in public at night without having to worry too much. So as I say, personal masquerade as a merit makes a huge difference for your character. And in Southampton Vampire By Night, one of the things we've got is that if you do not have the personal masquerade, you have to wear makeup at the games. So we'd expect you to have your face paled up, and a couple of dark shadows under your eyes or something. And if you have personal masquerade, you don't have to worry about doing that. So it's a merit that can get rid of you actually having to wear any makeup and stuff at a game. So there's that. And then flaws. Flaws wise, let's have a look. I can't find them easily here. So I'll give some. Here we go. One eye. Bam. There we go. One eye as a flaw. One eye will restrict your perception in the game, and I believe gives you some negative effects to firing weapons, and depth perception and stuff like that. So that's a flaw. So I'm really, I can pass myself off as as a mortal, but at the same time I've only got the one eye, which means if I try to fire a gun or something, I'm a bit so as I say, merits and flaws. You can have 7 points of merits, 7 points of flaws. That's it. So moving on, blood pool. Your blood pool is that's kind of made from depending on what your generation is, depends on how much blood you can have. So an 8th generation can have 15 blood. So what I would do is just fill these in, just so if I was looking at my character sheet, I knew exactly how much blood is my maximum. Now at Southampton Vampire by Night, when you attend the game, we will give you blood cards and willpower cards. So when you spend a blood, you would hand one of these cards to the ref, and if you were to want to use your herd in an evening or something like that and you've gained some blood, a ref would then give you some blood back. Or if you're feeding off another vampire, then once again we can gain you some blood from that. And the same with willpower. You would start the evening with 6 willpower, and if you burnt willpower, then you would just hand those cards in. And yeah, so it's a good way of tracking your blood and your willpower at the game. When you use it, you use it. Also, we will then collect all these in at the end of the game. And we're not doing a whole thing where you start every game with maximum blood. You need to go out and actually feed to regain your blood, which should be fun. But that's a whole separate thing. It's character creation. So right then, so willpower, you start with 6 willpower. All vampires have that. Willpower is your kind of like a defense mechanism, so for like mental defense. It's also something where you try to push your will onto others in the form of retest. So I've just thrown a punch at you, I've missed, I'm upset, a willpower, I can ask for a retest. So it's kind of a thing where probably, like, I don't know how to put this, in the game, no, that's wrong, in like if it was a real world event or something, that you swing the your punch, you can see it's going to miss, and then you kind of force of, I don't know, slow-mo force will and change the direction or something. That would be spending willpower to do that. Really bad example, but anyway. Then you've got your morality. Now morality, most people would be under the path of humanity, and this is kind of like a set of laws that keep your beast in check. So all vampires are in constant fight with the monster that lives inside them. So monsters aren't nice. Vampires aren't nice people. They are predators. They hunt and feed off of the living, and the beast inside of them is always hungry and always wants more. And the more that you give in to that beast, the more that you allow it to come to the surface, the easier it can then get to the surface in the future, because you are giving in to that monster you've become. So vampires all have different ways of keeping that beast in control. So majority of the Camarilla, for example, use the path of humanity, which is kind of like holding on to what it was to be immortal, and that is a way to live in your vampire existence that will keep you, your beast at bay. Whilst the Sabbats and other sects, they have a larger option of paths to follow, but I believe that path of Cain is the one that majority of the Sabbat use. And as I say, it's a path that you follow. It's a set of tenets. It's a list of things that you shall not do, and if you do these things, that it will invoke your beast to come forth. Because it's kind of your thing where you've said it's okay if I slap someone, but it's not okay if I was to rip their head off. that's the path. So yeah, so they're in the rule books, worth reading up on them, because you're going to have to follow it unless you want to become a really nasty monster. Then going on to health levels. So all vampires have 9 health, yeah, when you run out of health, bad things happen. You die. Well, you don't. Yeah, there's whole rules for that. Don't have to worry about that now. But death in the game is something that is real and can happen. So characters don't live forever. Yeah. Then you've got status. I briefly covered status at the start. At the start of the game, you probably in the character sheet won't have any status, although there may be some merits that may give you something. But status is normally awarded in play, and it's normally because of role play, stroke interactions with your environment and people in your environment that will then encourage them to start to give you some status. So, you know, it's something that's got a whole separate rule set for it. It's really interesting, and they've done a really good job in the Mind's Eye Theatre rules in portraying status in an interesting way. So yeah, and then finally you have your initiative. So to work out your initiative, it's really easy. You look at your mental and your physical. Whichever one is higher is your initiative. So in this case, my physical is 7 and my mental is 3, so my initiative is 7. If somebody else I was engaged in combat with or want to do something before them, whatever it is, we would compare our initiatives together, and if both of us had 7 in this case, we would then go to social, and social is your tiebreaker. Yeah, and then finally you've got the common test pool. Now I've done an example in here of working out, you know, like I've got punch, so I'm going to do a punch. It's going to be, I've got a physical attribute skill of self. Oh, I use so many words there. I have an attribute score in physical of 7, and I have a skill in brawl of 4. So I've worked it out to be 11. The thing is, I think that for me, the common test pool, I like to use it as the uncommon test pool. So I would put in there test pools that are complicated to work out. For example, you've got a set, you're trying to do a maneuver or something, which you know you've got some discipline with a focus that gives you a bonus in the wildcard section, and you know that the discipline you have as well gives you a bonus in wildcard, and you know that you've got a skill in it, but you've also got a tool for it, and all of those kind of things. It's just like, right, I know that if I've got my normal setup, I could do this, and this is the thing, and you just work it all out, and then you do it, you know, put it in there, because otherwise you've got to flick through all your rules trying to figure out, you know. Yeah, anyway, I usually use it as an uncommon test pool, and that is one complete character. So what you would then have is, depending on the system you're in, meaning normally you do your character creation like this, and then you're assigned amount of experience points, and now you can then spend those on fleshing out your character. So now the reason why I've waited all the way to the end for this is because whichever generation you chose will also determine how much things cost. So for example, let's have a look. So if I was a neonate, so I put 1 point in generation, and I wanted to buy a skill, so another point in a skill, it would cost me the next level, excuse me, times 1. So let's say if I was a neonate and I wanted to up my athletics to 3, it would cost me 3 XP to do that. But I am an ancilla, which is, no, correct myself, I'm a pretend elder, so I'm 8th generation. So I'm looking at the skill, and it's actually going to cost me times 2. So for me to put that skill in athletics would now be 2 times the level, which would cost me 6 XP. So it's actually twice as expensive for me to upgrade my skills, if it, you know, from being the generation I am compared to the other. But what else is there? Then we've got let's have a look. Techniques, out of clan disciplines, skills, backgrounds, in clan elder. Okay, in clan elder power, out of clan elder power. Oh wow, well that's interesting. Yeah, so And then you've got incline disciplines, stuff like that. Wow, okay, so 8th generation, you get access to a single elder power. Nice. Right, that's going to be fun. So looking at this then, so let's just flesh out this character. I'll do it nice and quick and easy with quick maths. Right, so I'm going to up my attributes. So looking at this, it's an attribute will cost me 3 XP each. So let's go for 1 more in physical, 1 more in mental, we'll put another 1 in physical. So that's 9 XP so far. Hopefully you guys can remember this because I probably won't. So 9 XP, then let's look down the list. Incline disciplines, next level times 3. So I'm going to want to up my potence. So next level times 3, so it's 2 times 3 6, so that's 15 XP so far spent. And do I want to put another dot in celerity? No, skills are where it's at. So looking at that then, so I spent 15 XP, I've got 15 remaining, so skills cost me as a pretend elder times 2. So what do I want to do? Well, I'm going to up my security, so that's going to be next level by 2, so that'll be 2 times 2, 4. Then let's go for survival, so another 4, so that's 8, so mass 23, and then it's really hard trying to do mass off the top of your head like that. So that'd be 2, 23. Athletics, we'll put athletics to 3, and I think that means I've got like 1 XP remaining, so I'm just going to bank that. And I'll leave that for a rainy day, or when I've gone to my first game with this character and gained some XP from that, I can then use it, add it to that pool and buy some more. So there we go. That's my Brouillard Sabat Bob the Fighter. Really quick and easy to generate characters, but everything I've just done here is just the mechanics. The most important part when you're generating a character is to generate what your character's going to be, your background, your story, what you were as a mortal, when were you embraced, how was the embrace, how do you fit in with this society you're part of now, all of those kind of things. It's really interesting when you're creating a character to kind of go through what it was as a mortal all the way through the embrace and up into where you are now, so that you've got that whole plethora of information that me as a ref can come along and start to look through your background and then go, oh, that's interesting, we could tie that in with this, and all of a sudden you'll find that family members start to appear in the news, or that the company you used to work for is now being looked into for nefarious means, dirty dealings or something, and it's a way for us to kind of link your character into the world. So yeah, this is great. The character sheet's fantastic. Assigning stats and dots and points, and they kind of allow you to do stuff in the game mechanically, but the most important part for making a character is for you to sit down and kind of go through and create that background and have your goals and agendas, what your character's going to be doing later on, and then we should be good. So hopefully everybody should now know how to do a standard character creation. You will require the Mind's Eye Theatre rulebook to generate a character, because in that rulebook it gives you loads more information in regards to everything that I've just been clicking on. So it explains all the skills, it explains all of the archetypes, what all the focuses do, all the disciplines, backgrounds, everything like that. It's all explained in the rulebook. So go get yourself a rulebook, and then hopefully come and play at Southampton Vampire By Night. But yeah, so thank you very much everybody for watching this, and I'll see you all soon. Thank you. Bye.